Hello, 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 hello. Happy Saturday. Okay, I am testing out my new pedal, and it seems to be working well, which I'm very happy about. And hopefully the rain sounds aren't too bad. So hopefully this time around you shouldn't hear a click when I push to talk, and hopefully no longer hear a hum when I also push to talk. So hello, I changed my avatar a little bit. I decided it was a little bit dated, so trying to just make some upgrades. And I'm pretty happy where it's at right now. Also got some new backgrounds, something a little more fairy-like. So what we're going to do today is continue reading. This is how you lose the time war. And this is part 2 of 4 parts, I'm guessing. I'm guessing it's going to take a couple more streams to get through it. It is a novella, but we're about, yeah, we got about a quarter done last time. And I also got some new stream triggers. So if you have channel points, you can try playing with some of them. And I'm also doing a cursed short reading. I'm gonna see what the most cursed thing I can find is. Something very ooh or something like that. All right, let's get straight into it. Atlantis sinks. Serves it right. Red hates the place. For one thing, there are so many Atlantises always sinking in so many strands. An island off Greece, a mid-Atlantic continent, an advanced pre-Minoan civilization on Crete, a spaceship floating north of Egypt. On and on. Most strands lack Atlantis altogether, know the place only through dreams and mad poets' matter whispers. Because there are so many, Red cannot fix just one or fail to. No suplex. Hi, Nox. Good morning. I hope you're having a good morning so far. All sleepy morning. Well, hopefully you don't have many chores to get to today. Oh, you're working? Oh, I'm sorry. It sounds like you need some coffee. Or get some nice tea. Get something to wake you up for the day. Yes, 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 yes. Go get breakfast. Thank you for stopping by. Very cute fox. Very, very cute. Bye. Because there are so many Atlantises, Red cannot fix just one or fail to. Sometimes it seems strands but Atlantises to thwart her. They conspire. History makes common cause with the enemy. 30, 40 times throughout her career, she's walked away from some sinking, burning island thinking, at least that's over. 30, 40 times, the call has come. Go back. At the foot of the volcano, the dark-skinned Atlanteans seek their ships. A mother carries her screaming son in one arm, clutches her daughter by the hand. Father follows. He bears their household gods. Tears streak the soot on his face. A priestess and a priest remain with their temple. They will be burned. They have lived their lives as sacrifices to... who again? Red has lost track. She feels bad about that. They live their lives as sacrifices. Gods and children first, they fill the boats. As the earth shakes and the sky burns, even the bravest and most single-minded leave their work. Notes and sums and new engines remain behind. They take people and art. The math will burn, the engines melt, the arches fall to dust. Ooh, I actually kind of like that. Twitch now tells you when there's an ad break in progress, so you don't have to feel very awkward when someone in chat tries to tell you that there's an ad break going on. Hi, Voidsy. How are you doing today? Hi, Skull Crusher 666. Exhausted? What have you been doing? Anything fun at least? You got an ad? That's weird. You know what? I'm not even going to try to guess how Twitch decides on running the ads. Oh no, I have 2 different chat bots. Oh, what a good boy you've been. What a good boy. Oh, what a good boy. Who's your good boy? Who's your good boy? Yes, you're a good boy. Oh, you boo. Yeah, Twitch really is a void creature. Next thing you know, they're gonna come out with some last minute update that totally throws everybody off. Again. Burp, 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 burp. Hey, I mean, there's a lot of void creatures out there, right? There can be multiple ones in the universe. Just that this one is by the name of Amazon. The most mysterious creature. But hey, that guy. It's been a while, it feels like. You know what? Let me grab something really quick. Okay, so it's been a while since I did any of these, but I finally got my pedal and listen to what I can do now. Kind of like having a frog nearby. Okay, back to the story. This is not even one of the weirder Atlantises. No crystals here, no flying cars, no perfect governments, no psychic powers. Those last two things don't exist anyways. And yet, that man built a steam and pinwheel engine 6 centuries earlier than the mean. This woman, through reason and ecstatic meditation, discerned the usefulness of zero to her mathematics. This shepherd built freestanding arches into the walls of his house. Small touches, ideas so fundamental they seem useless. Nobody here knows their worth yet. But if they do not perish on this island, someone might realize their use a few centuries earlier and change everything. So Red tries to give them time. Her implants grow bright crimson to vent heat. They sear her flesh. She sweats buckets, growls, glowers. She pushes herself here. Island saving not a one-woman job, so she works harder than one woman can. She rolls enormous boulders to break the coming lava flows. She plows new fake riverbeds with her hands. With the tools at her disposal, she breaks rocks and forms their pieces into other rocks elsewhere. The volcano quakes and splits, vomits rock into the air. A stone pine of soot sprouts from the peak. She sprints uphill, a streak of skin and light. The lava shimmers, bubbles, spits. Some lands near her. She steps aside. The ash green sea reflects the royal black sky. The last cormorants flee. Darkness against dark. Red searches for a sign. She's missing something. She doesn't know what. She ponders skies and oceans for a while, wonders. While Red looks away, a gob of lava splashes towards her face. She catches it in her palm without looking. Her skin, if it were the sort of skin the panicked villagers below wear around their meat, should char. It is not. Does not. Too long watching. She turns back to the caldera, to the welling lava, and she stops. Black and gold vein the rising red. Some sun surfaces look like this when she visits them on shore leave. That's not what arrests her. The shifting colors form words that last mere moments. In handwriting now familiar. As the lava flows, those words change. Stretch. Make sure to stretch, everyone. She reads. Her lips frame syllables one by one. She commits the words the fire frames to the old kind of memory. There are cameras in her eyes, which she doesn't use for this. A recording mechanism clamps around the strand of fiber in her skull, which might be mistaken for an optic nerve. She turns it off, which the agency does not think she can do. The lava overflows its lip. She had meant to break this high promontory on which she stands, to make a sort of spout, spilling molten rock down her predetermined channel. Rather, she stands and she watches. Below, the village burns. Without her capstone effort at the peak, her dikes and redoubts work less well, but the mathematician still has time to grab her wax tablets at least. The boats leave. They get far enough away to survive the earthquake wave as their homes tumble into the sea. Red has not quite failed. She shakes her head and walks away, hoping this is the last Atlantis they will send her back to save. She remembers. The volcano stills. Winds part the clouds in time and leave the sky blue. The seeker scrambles up the slick and barren hill. Strands of thin, glistening volcanic glass cluster near the cooling lava. In another time and place, they will be called Pele's hair. The seeker gathers them by hand, like flowers humming. My careful cardinal, let me tell you a secret. I loathe Atlantis. Every last single Atlantis across all strands. It's a putrid thread. Everything you've likely been taught about Garden and my shift should lead you to believe we treasure it as a bastion of good works. The original Platonic ideal for how a civilization ought to be. How many bright-eyed adolescents have poured the fervor of their souls into lives imagined there? Magic, infinite wisdom, unicorns, the gods themselves made flesh. The work we do to maintain these notions is more subtle than you might think, given the publishing peccadillos of a dozen 20th centuries. What a robust priesthood Atlantis must have had to support so many earnest young things pitching their past lives in its temples. But what a dreary place. Stagnant, sick as a sucking wound. A successful experiment with disgusting results. The volcano was the best thing to ever happen to it. Now it's legend, possibility, mystery, a far more generative engine than anything it developed over a few thousand years. That's what we treasure. That's us, always. The volcano and the wave. Thank you for your words on eating. After weeks of ship's biscuit, they were especially welcome. I should tell you, as Mrs. Levitt would, that it's customary to send letters that can be opened without ruining the seal. But I appreciate your innovation more than I can say. What can I say? It was very cold on the ice, and your letter warned me. Your talk of ideographic signatures and operational security brought to mind some grooming work I did among a few strands worth of best of Hardwick's botanists. While there, it was my pleasure to observe correspondence between them and their lady. Just how layered and complex plain speech could be. How many secrets wrapped in the banner of sincerity, a word commonly invented in the 16th centuries. Even that ideographic signature could easily be a lie, of course. Counterfeit stamps, sealed letters hidden under separate cover, the wrong color of wax or silk flossing. How much glorious double talk took place while Mary, Queen of Scots, was under her roof. I assure you that cryptography pales in comparison. Imagine a cipher made up of interlocking moods, shifting in response to environmental stimuli. Also, standardized spelling wasn't yet a feature of English. Forging someone's handwriting was wasted effort if you didn't also learn their idiosyncratic orthography. Funnily enough, that would prove to be the undoing of latter century forgers. Chatterton, that marvelous boy, etc. We make so much of lettercraft literal, don't we? Waxed seals aside, letters as time travel, time-traveling letters, hidden meanings. I wonder what you see me saying here. Absent from your mention of food, so sweet, so savory, was any mention of hunger. You spoke of the lack of need, yes. No lion in pursuit. No animalist procreative desperation. And these lead to enjoyment, certainly. But hunger is a many-splendored thing. It needn't be conceived only in limbic terms in biology. Hunger, Red, to sate a hunger or to stoke it, to feel hunger as a furnace, to trace its edges like teeth. Is this a thing you singly know? Have you ever had a hunger that whetted itself on what you fed it, sharpened so keen and bright that it might split you open, break a new thing out. Sometimes I think that's what I have instead of friends. I hope it isn't too hard to read this. Best I could do on short notice. I hope it reaches you before the island breaks around you. Write to me in London next. Blue. Hydrate. Make sure to hydrate. I might change my background. Let me try the other background out. There we go. This is something that fits a little more with the whole rainy sounds. You know, kind of looking at the chat, maybe I shouldn't have all of my announcements and things like that all at once. I'll change that for next time. London next. The same day, month, year, but one strand over, is the kind of London other Londons dream. Sepia tinted, sky strung with dirigibles, the viciousness of empire acknowledged only as a rosy backdrop glow, redolent of spice and petaled sugar. Mannered as a novel, filthy only where story requires it. All meat pies and monarchy. This is a place Blue loves and hates herself for loving. She sits in a Mayfair tea house, in a corner, back to the wall with one eye on the door. Some spycraft rules transcend both time and space, and the other on a stylized map of the New World. She finds it slightly incongruous. The tea house favors a decidedly Orientalist aesthetic, but eclecticism is one of the many things Blue cherishes about the fibers of this particular strand. Her hair is now black and thick and long, deftly styled into a high chignon girdled in braids. Carefully twisted words clustering at her nape, drawing attention to the length and slope of her neck. Her dress is modest and neat. Not quite at the cutting edge of fashion. It's been a couple years since the princess line was new, but she suits it in charcoal gray. She's not here to play a role, but she is here to be invisible. She has observed, with pleasure, the very fine china of which the establishment boasts. Mason's Ming dragon, sinuous as arteries, her salmon bright against gild-edged bone white. She looks forward to her own pot, anticipates the dark, smoky, malty path her chosen tea will pick between the notes of candied rose, delicate bergamot, champagne, and muscat and violet. Her server arrives, quietly, unobtrusively laying out. The mason tiered cake tray, teapot, and sugar bowl. As she settles the teacup on its saucer, however, Blue's hand snaps out to circle her retreating wrist. The server looks terrified. "This set," says Blue, adjusting, softening her eyes into kindness, her grip into a caress, "is mismatched." "I'm so sorry, miss," says the server, biting her lip. "I'd already made the pot, but the cup was cracked, and I thought you'd not want to wait longer for your tea. And all the other sets were spoken for on account of it's a busy time of day. But if you're happy to wait, I could." "No," she says, and her smile is like clouds parting. The withdrawal of her hand into her lap is an erasure, a thing the server imagined, surely. This woman is a picture-perfect lady. "It's very beautiful, thank you." The server ducks her head and retreats back into the kitchen. Blue stares intently at the teacup, its saucer and spoon. Blue Italian, classical figures harvesting grain, carrying water forever beneath the rim. She pours her tea delicately, without straining the leaves. She lifts her teaspoon to the light. Can see that it's coated with a down thread substance she thinks she recognizes, but sniffs to be sure. She wills herself not to look around, commands every atom of her body into stillness, forbids the need to leap into the kitchen and pursue and hunt and catch. Instead, she stirs the spoon, empty, into the tea, and watches as the leaves unclump, swirl, spindle into letters. Each rotation is slow, and she marks paragraph breaks with small sips. Every sip undoes the letters until she swirls them into meaning again. Briefly, she wonders if the hardness in her throat is poison, her inability to swallow around it anaphylactic. This does not frighten her. She closes her eyes against the alternative, which does. When the tea and letter are finished, clumps remain. She reads the dregs as a postscript. Easy enough to do when the new world map matches it so precisely. Easy to read the discrepancy as direction. She dabs at her mouth, lifts the teacup, places it upside down beneath the boot of her heel, and grinds it so hard and swift that its destruction makes no sound. After she's gone, the seeker, dressed as help, armed with dustpan and brush, collect the remains, gathers them like rosebuds. When she is out of sight, she cuts the mix of clay and bone and leaf into tidy lines, tightly rolls up a banknote, and inhales sharply enough to feel smoke behind her eyes. This is the note. Don't do drugs, kids. Who knows what you're gonna see? Don't learn from our dearest. Our dearest. I think this is Red that's been taunting Blue. Don't do what Red did. Dearest 0000FF. common cause on Atlantis. Who would have thought? I suppose no thread's one thing. They train us full confident in that knowledge. Each has facets, hooks, barbs, useful in different ways, depending on articulation. The novice believes a single change will make a thread thus or thus. An event, an invasion, or a spasm, or a sigh is like a hammer. One side blunt and perfect for driving nails, the other clawed to pry them free. Snoozing some ads real quick. And like hammers, you store Atlantises out of sight when not in use. Stick them in a drawer somewhere safe until the next need comes around. And a stretch break. I wonder in that light, how much of your work has helped me and the other way around? A question beyond my calculative capacity. I'd ask the Chaos Oracle, but I have enough trouble with the higher-ups at present. I had to step fast after your last letter caught me napping. Commandant wanted explanations, as Commandant tends to, after the sinking island took so many treasures with it. A brief lapse in efficiency, according to the agency's models, but well within tolerance considering my track record. But added to the inroads your sides made against our more exposed deep cover teams, well, I shouldn't talk shop. What a bore, your tea salon pals would say. I summarize. It's been too long since my last letter. Strands 233's Atlantis was not the most offensive of the brood. And I spent little time there. Joke as I might, I see the value. Humans need marks to strive for, but imperfect systems decay. So we build them ideals. Change agents climb up thread, find helpful strands, preserve what matters, and let what doesn't fall to dust. Mulch for the more perfect future seed. Mrs. Levitt suggests relying on metaphors one's correspondent, that's you, I think, will find meaningful. I confess, I don't entirely know what's meaningful to you. I fell back on assumptions. Seeds and grass, growing things. It verges on stereotype. And when you write me, you write in furnace and flame. You ask about hunger. You ask in particular about my hunger. The short answer? No. The long answer?
Oi!
Thank you for the follow. I like how that played multiple times. I have too many bots. The long answer, I don't think so. No, it's okay. It's okay. It adds a little something to the stream. Hold on, I need a drink. Oh, That's okay. I'm used to having stuff thrown at me. It's nothing new. At least it's for a good reason and not a bad reason. Okay, it looks like ad breaks are about to start. I'm going to turn on the fan really quick because it's getting kind of hot. All right, here we go, but I don't know if that's too loud or not. Can someone let me know if they can hear my fan? It's like directly above me. Good, good, good. Thank you. All right. We sate needs before they strike. In this body, an organ, a designed, implanted, rigorously tested organ, seated somewhere above my stomach, registers the moment my metabolism requires fuel and stops the lizard-brained old subsystems that would make me keen and irritable and blunt on my thoughts. All those tricks Dame Evolution plays to make us hunters, killers, seekers, and finders and gorgers. Okay, I think I just saw the ads are starting to play. Let me play my frog. Let me play the music of my people until ads are over. I can disable the organ when I must, but it's so much more stable to receive a status report than to feel weak. But the hunger you describe, that blade jutting from the skin, the weathering as of a hillside often struck by storm, the hollowness, it sounds beautiful and familiar. When I was a girl, I loved reading. An archaic pastime, I know. The index and download are faster, more efficient, offering superior retention and acquisition of knowledge. But I read antique volumes handed down and fresh replicated books. How strange to uncover things in sequence. And so I read a comic book once about Socrates. In the comic, he was a soldier. He was. That part's true, I asked him. And one night, as his fellows lay down to sleep, he started thinking. He stood immobile, lost in thought until the dawn, at which instant he found the answer to his question. It all seemed very romantic to me at the moment. So I left my pod and wandered up red and far away, far from the chatter and the mutual observation. I found a hilltop on a small world, breathable but barren, and I stood there like Socrates in the comic book, lost in thought, weight on one foot, and I did not move. The sun set, the stars rose. They are a rose, right? Or something? Dante said that. I realized that as my ears grew used to the silence, I could still hear the others. Our chatter swarmed the heavens. Our voices echoed from the stars. This was not how Socrates stood, or Li Bai, or Ku Wan either. My isolation, my experiment, had caused a small sensation among those who cared for me, and for whom I cared, that sensation spread. Lenses and eyes turned upon me. I was, I think, 13. I received suggestions, philosophy textbooks, meditation guides, offers of practice and alliance. They crowded round, whispers in my ears. Are you okay? Do you need help? You can talk to us. You always can. There were tears. Other organs bind that process too, weeping. They keep our eyes clear and minds sharp, but chemistry is chemistry. Cortisol, cortisol. It feels harder to write than it should. It feels easier to write than it should as well. I'm contradicting myself. The geometers would be ashamed. I sent them away. Each being's entitled to her privacy, so I refused to let them see me. I was the only person on that tiny rock, and I made the world go dark. Wind blows. High places grow cold at night. Sharp rocks hurt my feet. For the first time in 13 years, I was alone. Whatever I was, whatever I am, tumbled first up into the stars, then down to the broken land. I dug into the soil. Night birds called, something like a wolf, but solitary and larger, with 6 legs and double banked eyes, padded past. And the tears dried, and I felt lonely. I missed those voices. I missed the minds behind them. I wanted to be seen. That need dug into the heart of me, and it felt good. I'm not certain how to compare this to something you would know, but imagine a person melded to a thing, an artificial god the size of mountains, built for making war in the four corners of the cosmos. Imagine that great weight of metal all around her, pressing her down, giving her strength, its hoses melding with her flesh. Imagine she shears the hoses off, steps out, frail, sapped, weak, free. I was light, hollowed, hungry. The sun rose. I found no revelation. I'm not Socrates. I know Socrates. I served with Socrates and you, Senator. But I digress. But I walked on, from that place to another, and from that to another in turn, until years later I came home. And when Commandant found me, slid inside me, said, "There's work for those like you," I wondered if all agents were like me. They weren't, I found out later. But we're all deviant in our different ways. Is that hunger? I don't know. No friends, though? Blue. That's not at all what I would have thought. I don't know. I suppose we see you all curling around campfires, singing old struggle songs. Have you been lonely? I hope the tea's well. Good? Well, I'll look for you next in a more public forum. Yours, Red. P.S. I hesitate to write this, but I've noticed my letters run long. If you'd rather I grow more concise, I can. I don't want to presume. P.P.S. Apologies for the imprecision of my salutation. I think salutation's what Mrs. Levitt calls that. I forgot what name the Strand 8 C-19 Londoners gave that shade of blue on imported porcelain. Would have used it if I remembered. P.P.P.S. We're still going to win. Okay, I'm gonna take a break from reading that. We're getting through. Red and blue are getting closer and closer together. I'm kind of happy to see their relationship growing. And it's interesting to see the very very big differences between the two sides. Hi, gato besto. That's a cute raccoon, by the way. So we have the one side, we have Red side, which is more technological, more metallic in nature. Nature. Wires, that kind of thing. And then you have Blue, who's on the more nature side. I still don't get a very good feeling for the nature side. Like, if I would imagine it'd be very like hippie, people growing from seed kind of thing, but I'm not sure if that's what it actually is. But I feel like they haven't really gone into it. I am reading. I'm taking a quick break after each chapter, so I just finished a chapter. Let's see. Oh, if you can't see, the book I'm reading is in the bottom right-hand corner. This book is called This Is How You Lose the Time War. And I think I like to say this every time. It's one of the best novels of 2019, or novellas. Best Rated Novella 2019 by NPR. And if anyone has any suggestions for reading material in the future, I'm always open. Though no guarantee I'll actually read it. I'm kind of picky. The more crazy it is, the more I might read it. Alright, back to the book. As the prophet says, everybody's building them big ships and boats. The emperor reigns uphill, flanked by his mummified co-rulers' temples, each served by their own high priest. Stone steps and highways link peak to peak along the ridge. Great cities grow and glow. Downslopes spread the farms, and beneath those, against the shoreline, unprecedented as pomegranates in local logic, a seaport. Stretch. 20-minute stretch break. Don't want to turn into a shrimp. Coastline trade occurs, of course, and reed boats ply the highland lakes. Quechua sailors and fishermen know the shapes of the winds, can sail through any storm, rate themselves equal to any wave. The Western Ocean's horizon has always seemed a wall to them. Beyond this rests the world's end. But a genius who has spent his life counting the paths of stars and collecting bits of storm-cast wood and weed upon the beach has a theory that another land waits across the water. Another genius, a decade older than the first, has discovered a method for knotting reeds far stronger and more durable than any her mother's made. With it, a team under her direction could build a boat large enough to carry a village. What good is land across the water, young men ask the first genius, when we have no way to get there? As soon grasp for the moon. What good for coastal fishing, young men ask the second, is a boat that can carry a village? Fortunately, geniuses understand that young men are often fools, so they sought the wisest being they knew. Each, separately, climbed the many thousand steps to the mountain peak, and on audience day they knelt before the current emperor's great-grandfather, mummified upon his throne, gold and jewel bedecked, radiant with age and command, and offered their gifts to him. And the secret priests who wait behind the emperor's throne are not young, nor are they all men, and they can frame 2 points into a line. So the great grand emperor's word goes out, and so a port is built, and sailors flock, beckoned by adventure. Adventure works in any strand. I'm going to mute when I hear my neighbors working on something. I didn't realize they were still working on something. Hopefully just a couple of knocks. Okay. No more knocking, please. Are we good? Okay, they're doing little knocks now. I can deal with that. Adventure works in any strand. It calls to those who care more for living than for their lives. They will sail together to a new world. They will sail together to a land of monsters and miracles. Currents will bear their massive fish-tailed ships across, freighted with silver and tapestries, with knotwork and destiny. Bread knots reeds with fingers calloused as wood. She was one of the second genius's earliest students. She nudged her to seek the great Grand Emperor's aid and held her elbow as they climbed. She is no warrior here, no general. She is a woman taller than usual, who emerged from the woods one day, naked and alone, and was sheltered. She knots and weaves well, because she has learned. When she has finished this ship, the production model, large enough to hold 2 villages at least, then it will sail, and she will sail with it, because someone needs to tend the knots if they break. She plays a tenuous game, this strand. As she knots and thinks to herself, she decides she would describe it using terms from Go. You place each stone, expecting it may do many things. A strike is also a block, is also a different strike. A confession is also a dare, is also a compulsion. Will the people of Tawan Tinsuyu brave the ocean their murderers will one day call the Pacific, and finding the swift currents travel to the Philippines or even farther as others done before? Will they, crossing waters so unfished that all a woman would need to do to eat is dart her hand beneath the waves and pull the fish up wriggling and silver, find new civilizations and make conquest, or common cause? Will this alliance in trade, stretched across the Pacific, save Tawantinsuyu when Pizarro's grotesque sails belly up from the south? Will at least early contact with Eurasian plagues strengthen these people against them? Sorry, losing my place with the foot pedal. Or will the tradesmen make it so far as a China ruled by the Ming, soon to reel from an enormous currency crisis that will bring the empire to its knees? A currency crisis brought on by the shifting exchange rate between copper cash and silver, of which the people of Tawan Tinsuyu sport an ample supply. Stabilized, will the Ming duck the 4-century cycle of empires rise and fall, and endure, growing, transforming, expanding to keep pace with the West's slow enlightenment and its overweening industrial revolution? Perhaps. Small likelihood, but we must seize each chance. The agency is not happy. Other agents have been caught or killed, cleansed from the weave or marooned in strands of which it's better not to think. Not Red. Not yet. But she must work faster. Red's hands slip on the knot. She is not thinking to herself. She's explaining. And to whom is she explaining? Well, she looks out to the meeting of sky and sea, stands up, walks away. She feels observed. Might Commandant be watching her? And if so, for what? She has been so careful. She does not even think of the sky's name often. An old man catches her pacing on the beach and offers cloth for the sails, sample after sample. She flips through them. Too weak, too weak, too weak, too rough. And this one, what even is it? Bunched and uneven? More crochet than weaving. This one, she says. As the sun falls west, she perches on a rock and rolls the language of knots between her oak hard fingers. She feels each letter and word and wonders how long the sky and sea spent winding this cord, and wonders who taught her the knot code in the first place, whether the iris bit her lip in frustration as she worked through a difficult passage. When the sun set, she takes the unraveled thread, snips it into lengths, and throws each length into the receding tide. Stars shine, and the moon. A dark shape slips along bright waves and dives. One by one, the seeker gathers the strands and ties them about her wrist so tight her fingers pale and stiffen. She makes a fist and tenses. Her skin splits beneath the cord and closes over it again. Red, who's waited motionless on the shore since sundown, sees something like a seal against the waves of light, and wonders. Thank you for the follow. Greatly appreciated, Eliam. Okay, I'm gonna actually turn down. So, no, I guess I don't think I have to turn it down. That wasn't that loud. Dear red sky at morning, don't shorten your letters. You ask if I've been lonely. I hardly know how to answer. I've observed friendships as one observes high holy days. Breathtakingly short, whirlwinds of intimate endeavor, frenzied carousing, the sharing of food, of wine, of honey, compressed as always and gone as soon as they come. It's often my duty to fall in love convincingly, and certainly I've received no complaints. But that is work, and there are better things of which to write. You say you were 13. You do not. You seem so young to me still, however long ago that may seem like it was to you. My own folk are great gardeners. Our games are long and slow, and our maturation also. Garden seeds the past with us. Your commandant knows this already, whether or not it's considered need to know for you, and we learn from and grow into its threads. We treat the past as trellis, coax our vineyard through and around, and harvest is not a word for swiftness. The future harvests us, stomps us into wine, pours us back into the root system in loving libation, and we grow stronger and more potent together. I'm going to snooze the ads for another 5 minutes. Thank you, Twitch, for letting me do that. I have been birds and branches. I have been bees and wolves. I have been ether, flooding the void between stars, tangling their breath into networks of song. I have been fish and plankton and hummus, and all these have been me. But while I've been enmeshed in this wholeness, they are not the whole of me. The thought of your disembodied network repulses me. But I look at you, Red, and see much of myself. A desire to be a part, sometimes, and to understand who I am without the rest. And what I return to, the meanness that I know as pure, inescapable self, is hunger, desire, longing, this longing to possess, to become, to break like a wave on a rock and reform, and break again and wash away. This is necessary part of any ecosystem, but it unsettles others, this inability to be satisfied. It is very difficult to befriend where you wish to consume, to find those who, when they ask, "Do I have you still?" when they end a letter with yours, mean it in any substantive way. So I go. I travel farther and faster and harder than most, and I read and I write, and I love cities. To be alone in a crowd, apart and belonging, to have distance between what I see and what I am. I am glad to know you love reading. Perhaps you should next write from a library. There's so much I want to recommend. Best, Blue. P.S. Socrates. I wonder if we knew any of the same ones. P.P.S. I kept nodding your name at night, but this salutation seemed wiser. I've learned to take warning from delight. P.P.P.S. Of course we're still going to win. That's the end of another chapter. I'm going to go grab a drink really quick, or get more drink. My water's almost out, and I will be back in a couple of minutes. Alright, stretch break. Okay, I'm back. I want to just talk for a couple minutes and then get back to the story. The thing I haven't been able to try lately is wait, let me rephrase that. One of the things that I'm working on for streaming is consistently with my audio, just making sure it works and it works well. And I was trying out some of my triggers that I've had before, and some of them work with the current settings I have, but some of them also don't work, which makes me a little sad. Because my favorite one, let me see if I can let me try it again. Okay, see, you can hear me bump the microphone. You can hear me scratch. You can hear the froggy. Hi, cow. Yes, go to sleep. Go, go, go. Get as much sleep as you need. That is really late. Or I'm just old. I can't imagine being up past midnight anymore. Good night. So those still work. I wonder if... I'll probably try it another time. Anyways, what is our progress? We are page 74 of 216, so we're almost halfway through. Okay. Gonna keep going. I'm not gonna speed read, but I think we can get to halfway through. Blue is in a high place at night. Wind blows. The air is cold, but she is not. Sharp rocks don't hurt her feet. Her job is to guard a growing thing, millennia in the making. A seed planted in the banked embers of the planet's heart that's riddled its slate surface with something like vines, sap, blood, just beneath the surface, just waiting. It will bloom soon. Blue has fed it from time to time as required. She's always known its purpose. A lion in waiting, a planet-sized trap to spring. Seeds planted long before prohibitive treaties about down-thread interference. Blue is to watch it hatch, accomplish its purpose, then destroy the root system and leave no trace to be found or to be used by the other side. Garden has learned with the slow patience of green things how to prune enemy agents from the timeline, releasing ladybirds to their aphids. dragonflies to their mosquito larvae. Blue is still thinking of larvae when she sees Red. Time stops. Blue carries nothing with her between strands except knowledge, purpose, tactics, and Red's letters. I just realized something. Hold on. There we go. Memory is tipped and decanted into garden. Life to life to life. Always deepening, thickening, growing new roots and efficiencies. But Red's letters she keeps in her own body, curled beneath her tongue like coins, printed in her fingertips, between the lines of her palms. She presses them against her teeth before kissing her marks. She reads over them when she shifts the grip on motorcycle handles, dusts soldiers' chins with them in bar fights and barracks games. She thinks without thinking often of what she will name Red. In her next letter, hides her list in plausibly deniable dreamscapes on the undersides of milkweed leaves, in shed chrysalis and wingtip, vermilion lie, scarlet tanager, Parthian thread, my red rose. She looks at Red, 13, alone, vulnerable, so impossibly fragile and small, and a letter rises in her throat like bile. I wanted to be seen. She sees her and breaks like a wave. She does not run the scenarios. She does not think, did the garden send me here to test me? Does garden know? Does garden want me to watch her die? She thinks nothing as the roots tense and twitch, as the planet blooms a mouth, a face, a body, a vastness rearing silent as owl flight in the perfect dark, a hunger with eyes and teeth, bred for silent, waiting years to scent one specific set of nanoscopic implants, to hatch and devour one bright red element of its surroundings. It looks a little like a lion, truth be told. Mane of pale blue cilia, maw worthy of cinematic roars, though it will never make a sound. But for the size, the number of legs, the wings, it steps out onto the cold, sharp ground. It sniffs the air, inclines its head in Red's direction. Blue tears out its throat. Her teeth are very sharp. She has 4 rows of them. Her double-banked eyes see beautifully in the dark. Her 6 legs end in tearing points, rip the voiceless creature into hot, pulsing meat. It gets its own in. Good for the story she'll have to tell, she'll later think. When she can recover thought, when she can act again from something besides pure obliterating need. And she bleeds in her wolf shape, but makes no sound. Nothing to distract Red from the absence of Epiphany, the hollowing that left the space for another, the moment when she became Blue's. Blue eats the carcass, all but its teeth and venom sac that she tears carefully open on the rocks, tips a few drops into the hole it grew out of. The roots will lap it up, wither, and die. Her story will be that the creature had soured, attacked her instead of its quarry. Enemy action, no doubt, having discovered the root system, made changes to it somewhere up thread. An understandable but embarrassing mistake left Blue too injured to attempt her own correction. And at any rate, there were the treaties. Direct confrontation between agents so precariously down thread would be catastrophic for ambient chaos levels. The words fall into place like rain. Blue licks her bloodied snout, her paws, her gouged shoulder. She needs to do one more thing. Slowly, keeping her wound out of sight, she walks where Red can see her. Keeping her distance, of course, and the words padded past in some dimness of mind. She does not look wounded, she is certain. She looks at Red and sees tears on her face. She stifles the urge to run towards or away. She carries her hunger like a compass rose. Stars rose, they are a rose, right? Walks due south away from the north to which it points. Once she is out of sight, she tucks into a shallow cave and collapses, trembling, shifts her shape to human, finds her legs, her skin, the wound yawning larger and uglier than before, likely infected and needing care. She leans her back against the scalloped stone wall, closes her eyes, spreads her palms on the ground for extra support. She puts one hand on a letter to do Mrs. Levitt proud. Beautiful blue paper, flecked with lavender buds and thistle petals, in a blue envelope with a red dollop of wax shutting it. There is no seal, no stamp. Only red. Red as the blood dripping from her shoulder. She stares at it. Then she laughs, hollow and bare, and she sobs, and she clutches the letter against her heart and does not open it for a long time. But she does. She reads it. Fever builds, sweat beads on her brow, but she reads it again and again and again. Much later, the seeker comes. She finds the gutted creature's teeth. She plucks the two largest canines, fixes them into her own mouth, and moved towards the cave. There is nothing for her to find except blood. Dear Blue, I I don't know what to say. Even perspi- perspicacious. That's an interesting word. Don't know that one. Almost prescient Mrs. Levitt lacks a model. Birthdays, yes. It's mine, by the way, to the extent that I have one. Funerals, fine. On the occasion of a marriage, naturally. But she somehow neglects to frame a form for when your enemy saves. Shit. I'm sorry. I can't keep up the joke, and it's wrong to call you enemy. Thank you. For saving me, obviously, and for starters, I felt you climb down the braid. I am more sensitive to your footsteps, I think, than anyone alive. And everyone is alive, somewhere in time. Even these digressions feel weak. I like them usually, my jokes. They feel like tacking in, not out, to the matter at hand. Less so now. I followed you. I apologize for that, for trespassing on your privacy as you made yourself what you had to be to win. I could not have beaten the beast alone. You're more ferocious than I am. Do you look around in turn as you read these lines, seeking me? I'm gone, dear blue, upthread, and you should be as well. Neither of us are safe here, and the longer you remain, the less safe we become. You know the drill. Tremors spread from a traveler's foot, and though no spider has grown so attuned to your tread as I have, the others aren't deaf. I'll have to see your eyes some other time. I leave you a letter, sealed in wax, a trace of perfume. Scent, for me, is a medium. I rarely use it for ornamental purpose. I hope I've selected a fragrance to your taste. I asked the busboy in London next for a sample of your tea a few letters back. Brought it to a perfumery in Phnom Penh in Strand 7922C33 if you happen to like the smell. I'll enclose the address below. Worked back and forth for a few years on the proper mix. Anyways, keep this. It's yours. It won't burn when you read the signature. It won't decay faster than any letter one woman in your beloved Strand 6, C19 would write to another. The papers from Wuhan Song Dynasty, handmade. Leave it in a damp place and it will rot. Mix it in water and you'll have a pulp. Destroy it on your own, in your own way if you want. I won't mind. We all have our observers, and this letter is a knife at my neck if cutting's what you want. It's so hard to move here and reply to your last letter. I can't say precisely what I feel. I'm shaken. You know the edges of old maps that promise monsters and mermaids? Here there be dragons. I do not know what roads lead forward, but your letter hungers for reply. I've read your last missive and reread it. Stretch break, stretch. No shrimp. Oh, I heard a crack. Okay, I heard a couple cracks. Okay. In memory, as you warned me I would so long ago, preparing myself for a fall. I see you as a wave, as a bird, as a wolf. My wolf with the 6 legs and double banked eyes. I try not to think of you the same way twice. Thinking builds patterns in the brain, and those patterns can be read by one sufficiently determined and commandant. Sometimes is sufficiently determined. I think you'd like her. So I change your shape in my thoughts. It's amazing how much blue there is in the world if you look. It's amazing. Your different colors of flame. Bismuth burns blue, and cerium and germanium and arsenic. See, I pour you into things. I suspect you see me plain by now. Imagine me shifting, uncomfortable, exposed. My way was always the straightforward push, in one direction, without hesitation or restraint. I only worried you might view these long letters as the sign of a simple or desperate mind. I worried, maybe you'll laugh, that you responded on sufferance. So let me be clear. I like writing you. I like reading you. When I finish your letters, I spend frantic hours in secret composing my replies, pondering ways to send them. I can trigger any combination of chemical ups and downs with a carefully worded phrase. A factory within me will smell any drug I seek. But there's a rush in reading and sending against which no drug compares. Sorry, I feel I need to take a breather. For some reason, that last part was very emotional. Speaking of exposed, if you have some grand plan, if the death of your masters envisioned for my younger self was too quick and you'd rather see me disassembled from my parts, all you need to do now is drop this letter where some other agent of my faction might find it. I could live with that. Well, not for long and painfully, but you take my meaning. So in this letter, I am yours, not Garden's, not your missions, but yours alone. I am yours in other ways as well. Yours as I watch the world for your signs. Epiphanic as her respects. Yours as I debate methods, motives, chances of delivery. Yours as I review your words by their sequence, their smell, their sound, taste, taking care no one memory of them becomes too worn. Yours. Still, I suspect you will appreciate the token. I'll try for a library next time. I hope you understand my need for a change of plans. Yours, Red. So that's the end of that chapter, and I need to take a quick breather because, oh my goodness. I was not expecting that at all. That's a hell of a love letter if you've ever seen one. Like, holy, crap. That is a lot of words to say that And also just kind of saying again, I if you have channel points, I have a whole bunch of my channel points available for redeeming. I added a bunch of new ones as well. And the Asmer specific ones start with Asmer specifically. There are other ones which are sounds and just other fun things, but probably not best for this stream. uh, Wait, did I go invisible there? Alright, I'm taking a quick bite of food. I know no one wants to hear me go crunch crunch. Red runs the table to stop herself from thinking. In strand 622 C19 Beijing, she, uncomfortable in her sheathing of silk but channeling blue, starts a debate about canal construction that feeds into a debate about public morality that spurs a principled, incorruptible bureaucrat named Lin to accept an imperial dare. If Lin clears drug smuggling foreigners from Guangzhou, he will have funding for his infrastructure project. When Lin reaches Guangzhou and tries to break the drug trade, a war begins and Red slips away. In 14th century Axum, Islamicized and strong in strand 3329, Red in shadows, stabs a man who's about to stab another man who's wandering home buzzed on espresso, sugar, and math. The man Red stabs dies. The mathematician wakes up the next day and invents a form of thought that, in another strand, much later, will be called hyperbolic geometry. Red's already gone. In 9th century Al-Andalus, she serves the right tea at the right time. In the diamond city of Zanj, she strangles a man with a silken cord. She seeds the Strand 9 Amazon basin with defanged versions of European superbugs 10 centuries before first contact. And when conquistadors arrive, they face locals by the millions, strong, thriving communities that won't perish by mere contact with the world across the waves. She kills again and again, frequently but not always to save. And she watches over her shoulder. A shadow follows her. I'm snoozing ads for 5 minutes. She has no proof, but she knows, as bones know they're breaking stress. Commandant must suspect a drop in her efficiencies would point to compromise. So Red throws herself into her tasks. Works riskier assignments than Commandant would ever require. Succeeds beautifully brutally. Time and again, empty. She wins. She climbs up thread and down. She braids and unbraids history's hair. Red rarely sleeps, but when she does, she lies still, eyes closed in the dark, and lets herself see lapis, taste iris petals and ice, hear a blue jay shriek. She keeps collecting blue and keeps them. When she's sure no one's watching, she rereads the letters she's carved into herself. All this running and murder merely passes time. She waits and waits for the guillotine. She's been trapped. The one for whom she waits has fed Commandant the letter she left behind, and Commandant's just playing her out now, squeezing Red for work until the Chaos Oracle indicates she has marginally more value crushed. My dear cochineal, or Blue, she lets herself think that name once in a two-mooned month, read her letter and recoiled. Red wrote much too fast. Her pen had a heart inside, and the nib was a wound in a vein. She stained the pages with herself. She sometimes forget what she wrote, save that it was true and the writing hurt. But butterfly wings break when touched. Red knows her own weaknesses as well as anyone. She presses too hard, breaks what she would embrace, tears what she would touch to her teeth. She dreams of a morpho butterfly with wings spread large as a world. She strangles, screws, builds. She works. She watches birds. There are so many damn birds. She never heeded them before. Knowledge of them. Whose call is that? Which is male? Which is female? What's the name of the duck with the emerald head? Is all stored on the index, but when has she needed it? She planned to get to it one day. She plans to get to everything one day. But now she learns the names from books. She pulls some from the index to save time and because books are heavy. But she does not leave the knowledge in the cloud. She repeats the names to herself. She carves patterns into her eyes. She burns 3 astronauts in their cockpit on the launch pad. Every cause needs sacrifices. The stench of seared pork and sour rubber catches her lungs, and she flees up thread, lets no one see her weep. Collapses on the bank of the Ohio River, bends double, vomits in a bush, crawls away and cries out the rubber and the screams. She strips. She wades into the water until it covers her head. A flock of Canada geese draw north and paint the sky green-black with the creaks of their wings. The geese settle on the river. Their legs churn the water. They stay half an hour, only to lift off in the thunderclap of feathers. She emerges. One goose waits on the shore for her. She kneels. It lays its head on her shoulder. Then it leaves, and 2 feathers remain. Red clutches them to her for a long time before she reads. Later, farther south, a great horned owl takes the goose, and the seeker, weeping, eats its heart. When Red enters the clearing, only footprints and the cord goose remain. Okay, so I know more ads are running right now, so I'm going to switch over to doing some nice sounds. Some nice froggy sounds. I love this frog, by the way. I was thinking of getting a bigger one because this current one is so tiny. It's like a little. It's so little. It's so small. It's so cute. Welcome back. I don't remember that actually being a thing the last time I streamed. I don't remember it telling me when ad breaks end and start, but I really like that. Okay, we're almost to the halfway point. I am going to butcher this, and I am so sorry in advance. I don't know. I wonder if this is supposed to be a Native American name. My dear Miss Kowanzi, I write to you in the dark before dawn, slowly, longhand, chalk on a slate. Later, I will translate these words into feathers. There's a small hill from which I can watch the sun set over the Utatui River. Every evening, I see a red sky bleed over blue water and think of us. Have you ever watched this kind of sunset? The colors don't blend. The redder the sky, the bluer the water, as we tilt away from the sun. I'm embedded now, in a strand beloved of garden. One of the ones where this continent wasn't critically overrun by settlers with philosophies and modes of production inimical to our shift. On a research mission, tugging at and wicking fibers for easier braiding into other strands. Always a balancing act, of course, to give without losing, to support without weakening. Everything a weaving. I've been placed here to convalesce, I think. Garden doesn't always spell these things out, but does know my fondness for hummingbirds and migrating geese. I'm thankful. It's good to write with leisure. I hope, while here, to stretch my letters out, if only because they will have to find you at a lived pace. It will be a long while before I walk the braid again. I'm married and will soon wake my husband with rosehip tea and breakfast before sending him out to train. Stretch, 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 stretch. He's a good man, a runner and a scout, and the days are getting cooler. So there are a great many messages. and supplies to send and share before the storytelling season sets in and blankets us indoors. It's such luxury to dwell in these details, to share them with you. I want red. I want to give you things. Have you ever tasted rose hips in tea or jam? Oop, oops, that's the medicine. That's the time to take something. Let me do that really quick. A tart sourness that cleans the teeth, refreshes, smells like a good morning. A mash of rose hips and mint keeps me steepling my fingers all day long to keep those scents in my head. Sumac, too. I think you might like sumac. I find myself naming red things that aren't sweet. Your letter, your last letter. Be certain that I won't drop it where any of your fellows can read it. It's mine. I'm careful with what belongs to me. Few things do, belong to me. In Garden, we belong to one another in a way that obliterates the term. We sink and swell and bud and bloom together. We infuse Garden. Garden spreads through us, but Garden dislikes words. Words are abstraction, break off from the green. Words are patterns in the way fences and trenches are. Words hurt. I can hide in words so long as I scatter them through my body. To read your letters is to gather flowers from within myself. Pluck a blossom here, a fern there, arrange and rearrange them in ways to suit a sunny room. It amuses me to think of liking your commandant. What a strange strand that would be. I keep turning away from speaking of your letter. I feel to speak of it would be to contain what it did to me, to make it small. I don't want to do that. I suppose in some ways I'm more Garden's child than she knows. Even poetry, which breaks language into meaning. Poetry ossifies in time the way trees do. What's supple, whipping, soft, and fresh grows hard, grows armor. If I could touch you, put my finger to your temple and sink you into me the way Garden does. Perhaps then, but I would never. So this letter instead. I ramble, it seems, when writing to the darkness by hand. How embarrassing. I'm quite certain I've never rambled a day in my life before this. Another thing to give you. This first, for me. Yours, Blue. P.S. Should this find you near a library, I recommend Travel Light by Naomi Mitchison. It's the same in all strands in which it exists. It might be a comfort to you on the move. I can tell you're moving a lot right now. P.P.S. Thank you for the letter. Yep, we are at halfway through now. Yeah, I think we're at halfway through. because we probably have about, give or take, maybe 5 to 10 pages worth of some kind of notes at the end, maybe. So then, yeah, we're exactly halfway through the book. And let me see how long the next chapter is. Okay, I'm gonna read this last chapter. It's only a couple pages long. And then do a little bit of chatting at the end because I want to show you all something that I got recently and I'm like super happy for. But first, a breather and a water break. And ever, if you have any questions for me, questions or comments, please feel free to say them in the chat. I will always do my best to respond, especially if you're trying to be a little gremlin. Though I don't know if you can out-gremlin me. You can't. You'll have a hard time out-gremlining the gremlin. I have a dog in my lap. He is trying to take up my attention. And we shall go on to the last chapter I'll read. Blue walks in the hush light before dawn and looks for a sign. Her work here is slow but never boring. One of Blue's virtues as an operative is the thoroughness she brings to every life. Her husband will be important to the daughter of a rival's friend, and the conversations Blue has with him, the gifts she'll make him, the dreams towards which she rocks him in their bed will spiral tendrils of possibility from this strand into others, send tremors to shift and shake the future's bows in garden's direction. It's a gift from the garden that her role here requires such thorough, deliberate indwelling, that to wander in the woods and think of birds and trees and colors is expected of her, is mission critical. Blue loves cities, their anonymity, their smells, their sounds, but she loves forests too, places other people call quiet that are anything but. Blue listens to jays, woodpeckers, grackles, laughs at hummingbirds jousting on the wing. She holds out her hands for nuthatches and chickadees. I am so sorry. I forgot that delays it and doesn't get rid of it. Silly alarm. Nuthatches and chickadees, black and white warblers, and they flit to her, make branches of her fingers. She strokes sapsucker's crest without naming the color. makes a needle and a thread of the thrill she feels in touching it, then stitches it into the joy Garden expects her to feel in the woods. There's a scar on her shoulder in every shape now, a puckered tracery of trauma. Wolves shy from her, love her from a distance. Because she is expected to amble in this way, it's relatively easy to disguise her searching because she's been turning the last season leaves, picking up crow skulls, the shed and drying velvet of antlers, fox's teeth. It's not at all noteworthy that she goes still as prey in the presence of a great gray owl, its wizard face inclined to her, the sheen of its feathers ruffling a color like the retreating night. It stands, serene and dignified, in the hollow of an oak and looks at her. Then it horks up a sizable pellet, ruffles itself, and flies away. Blue laughs, sudden, sharp, and stoops to pocket the pellet. She turns it over in the fingers of one hand without looking at it. Just another curio for her collection. She does not take her hand off it until she's back home. She waits until sunset when she can be looking at the scarleting sky as she cuts carefully into the pellet and finds something there to read. Years later, a seeker scours the area just shy of the speed of sound, blurs in and out of sight, and carries tiny fragments of bone back into the braid. Dearest Lapis, yes, I've been moving. They have us, well, me really, all over these days, up thread and down. New assignments gathering by the minute. Your site's tricks and traps took their toll, so our missions multiply to make up the difference. But enough of the war. Enough to say, I write at haste. I was about to ask you to forgive my brevity. As I went to write that, though, I saw you shaking your head. You were right back then. I have built you within me, or you have. I wonder what of me there is in you. Thank you for your letter, more than I can say. It found me in a moment of hunger. Words can wound, but they're bridges too, like the bridges that are all that Genghis left behind. Though maybe a bridge can be a wound. To paraphrase a prophet, letters are structures, not events. Yours gives me a place to live inside. My memories of you spread through millennia, and each highlights you in motion. This picture of you at home, with husband, with rosehip tea, with sunset and river, swells my heart. A stippling of sea skin indicates the whale beneath, or dots of star shape a bear light years big. So I trace your life now from these hints. I imagine you waking, sleeping, watching geese, working hard outside with arms and back and legs in period technology. I will find some sumac when I will find some sumac when next I'm where it grows. I confess I'm only familiar with the poison variety, which I don't think you mean. Perhaps someday they'll assign us side by side in some small village up thread, deep cover, each watching each, and we can make tea together, trade books, report home sanitized accounts of each other's doing. I think I'd still write letters even then. Read the Mitchison, loved it, though that seems too quick a summary. I get what you mean about words now. It hit me, especially the dragons and Odin and the ending. I had a harder time with the Constantinople section. I may be missing some context there, though I can see what place it holds in the book. And the trickery reminds me of pieces of Don Quixote. But the final revelation about the kings and dragons, yes, funny how we always think of knights as fighting dragons when in fact they work for them. The garden seems to like roots, and this book roots in rootlessness. Are you a tumbleweed then? A dandelion seed? You are yourself, and so remain as I remain, yours, Red. P.S. Owls are fascinating creatures, but it's harder than I thought to convince them to take food. Maybe this one didn't trust me. P.S. I don't mean to unnerve you, but are you seeing shadows? I may have picked one up. No proof yet, and I may well be paranoid, but paranoia doesn't mean I'm wrong. Commandant hasn't let on that she suspects anything. At least not yet. Take care. PPPS. Really, that book. In a moment of daring, I commended it to the attention of a few major critics in Strand 623. Hard to generate momentum, but you never know. New strands rise all the time. Send me more. And that's it. We are officially halfway through This Is How You Lose the Time War. So at this pace that we're going at, we'll be done with the book in 2 more sessions. What I'm planning on doing, and because I just realized the time, I actually have to go get something because I have an appointment. I will keep to reading this book on Saturdays only, and if I stream on Wednesdays, I will read something else. I'll read maybe some scripts, or I'll play a game then. But I think it's unfair that if you come in during this time period, that suddenly I switch up the time periods on you, and you miss out on a part of the story, especially because it's really starting to pick up, and you can feel it. You can really feel red and blue really coming together, and I am super excited to see what happens next. And also that if I stream on Wednesdays, I only tend to stream for like an hour or an hour and a half. So that is definitely not enough time to get through the book. Okay. So it looks like oh yeah, since I have an appointment that I need to get to, I will show my thing my thing. I will show what I was wanting to show today next week. So I'm Acantha Faye. If y'all didn't know, popping into my stream, I'm previously a noble fairy. So I like cute things. I'm very into cute things. I do Asmer, and I like to play more cozy games. And what else is there to say? Anyways, if you're not following me, please drop a follow. I always appreciate any subs. And I will be bumping us over to another Asmerist. I think she's doing art today, so I'm not sure what she's doing. But let's go ahead and raid her. Because she's got those very nice vibes. Oh, no, I did not mean to clip that. I'm pressing everything that I don't mean to. Luca! Wait, Luca? Luca? Luca, I gotta do it. I can't not. Happy birthday to you. You cannot escape. There's no escaping the birthday. No cry, only happy. I have no clue what Belle is looking at. But I guess we're gonna go see what she's looking at. She has a cozy feeling, so I hope. Only cry. No, no crying allowed. It's your birthday. You're not allowed to cry if you want to. Okay. We're gonna go to Bellsprout. Have a good evening, all. More comfy vibes coming up.